Anine, hi all. Thank you for joining me for another Indigenous hybrid author video. Dun, dun, dun. In this video, I'll be sharing my journey for the making of my middle grade book, Gidjie and the Wolves. Just know that there are plenty of ways to go about creating an illustrated book, and that what I share is simply my personal experience. So, the story. Dun, dun, dun. The inspiration for Gidjie and the Wolves came from a series of vivid animal dreams that I had between the winters of 2017 to 2018. During this time, I kept a journal by my bed and I wrote everything down. In 2018, I felt I had enough inspiration to actually start writing the story. It took me about 3 months to write the book, during which time there were days I don't know if I got out of bed like all day. I would sit and write from the time I woke up until the time I went to bed. Not my best days, but kind of my best days. It then took me about 2 months beyond that to rewrite the story, and it would later take me a couple more months to edit it further before publishing. So in total, I'd say it took me about 7 months to write and edit Gidjie and the Wolves. The illustrations. Dun, dun, dun. I began drawing the illustrations after the book was written and was currently going through some edits in early 2020. I created all but 2 of the illustrations for Gidjie and the Wolves in about a week and a half. The other 2 drawings I had made at least a year prior while I was still writing the story. So my original plans for the illustrations was to pencil, ink, and color them all myself. I planned on using an iPad and using the program Procreate. So I had a publication date in mind of March 2020, but when I was near the finish line of editing the manuscript, I suffered a huge setback in the form of a writing software malfunction. Like, it was bad. I had to redo about 1 to 2 months of editing on my manuscript. So to try and make my self-imposed deadline of March of 2020, which is when I wanted to release the book, I began drawing the illustrations while I was still in the editing process. And I was editing like 10, 12 hours a day. So my dear sweet husband, who happens to be an award-winning artist, he saw how much I was struggling and how much effort I was putting into the project, and he volunteered to ink and color my illustrations for me. So our process ended up being that I would do the pencil drawings on like an 18 by 24 inch drawing pad, and then he would take pictures of them with his iPad and then ink and color them. So yeah, that whole process took about 2 weeks, I want to say, with both of us going full force on it. I think I was creating about 5 drawings a day, and I knew there were days when he was playing catch up and he was inking like 7 to 12 illustrations a day. I took pictures of him at his drawing table with his iPad, but I won't share those with you because he looked like a madman in love. I loved working with him, but I don't know if I'll let him help me in such a crunch time again, because I want my husband to be sane, and yeah, that was a crazy, crazy illustration circus we were both in for a couple of weeks. Choosing the trim size and fonts. Dun, dun, dun. I chose to skip the hardback and go right to a 6x9 paperback format. I researched what fonts are used in children's books, and I ended up choosing, I believe, Noteworthy and Baskerville, both of which came in Microsoft Word and Adobe. For the Gidjie logo, which is on the front of the book, I used an iPad and an Apple Pencil to like freehand the text, like the color and the spacing and everything. So I got something that I liked, and then Jonathan took that and put it into Photoshop and just made something original and magical that I can use for the rest of the books in the series, which is flippin' awesome. All I need to do is just change the color and I'm ready to go. Formatting. Dun, dun, dun. So I did what some people I know think is not good to do, and I formatted my book in Microsoft Word. For my next book, I want to try working in Adobe InDesign. But overall, I'm really happy with how the book turned out. There were just a couple of tricks that I had to know to make Microsoft Word work for me. And that was making sure the mirror image pages function was on, and to make sure the illustrations were the exact size and location that I wanted them to be. I had to set the text wrapping so that the images were set at behind the text. And those are really the only two big things that I had to play with to make it work for me. The printing process. Dun, dun, dun. I chose to use KDP as the printer because if you want them to, not only in addition to using their wide distribution channels, they will also send your book to be distributed through Ingram. And that is important because librarians and indie booksellers pretty much all order through Ingram. They usually won't purchase books that come through Amazon. So at that point in the process, I had a physical book. Yay! I'm not going to get into marketing and selling books because that's a whole other giant gnarling beast of a process. So that wraps up the basic steps I took creating my illustrated book, Gidjie and the Wolves. I hope you enjoyed this video and found something I said in it useful. Please hit the like button and subscribe. If you have any questions about the process that I didn't cover in this video, please leave them below. And with that, I'll say Gigawabamin, Minawa, Nagaj. I will see you again later.